Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting for the City of Cedar Falls for Tuesday, January 21st. I will now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Schultz.
Here.
Latta.
Here.
Cruz.
Here.
Hallbaker.
Here.
Anfield.
Here.
Chrisman. Here. Dunn.
Here.
All members present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now, if you're willing and able, could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I'll now look for a motion to approve the regular meeting of January 6th minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any agenda revisions?
I have no agenda revisions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And we will now move to public forum, where speakers will have one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relevant to city business. Is there anyone from the public who would wish to speak tonight? Just name and address.
Okay, thank you. Dennis Pruckler, 2221 Center Street here in Cedar Falls. Today I sent out some things to people here. I don't know if some of you received it or not. Basically, it's like 6 slides, and got them out of order here. The first one was a picture of the water trail system that we could potentially have. All of the things I've presented so far in these sessions have been based on what the Army Corps calls engineering with nature. It's kind of a green development model where they try to, rather than doing bricks and mortar type engineering, it's just restoring nature to its normal function and our community and waterways to our normal function. I looked at, way back when I started looking at flood issues here in Cedar Falls, I realized almost all of the issues we've had are the result of not paying attention to what nature had been doing and to the solutions we had when we first settled this area. And if we restore the many channels of waterways, the water in the river will not have to go as high. It will go lower through many channels and pathways. That's what the slide with showing the water trails and all the possible waterways that water could go through the city. They spent billions of dollars building a water diversion channel up in North Dakota along the Red River. We have one naturally here. We have so many things naturally that other cities would love to have, but we haven't been paying attention to them. But anyway, the solutions are based on engineering with nature, which looks for what they call triple win solutions. Economic wins, because things are done inexpensively and you usually get huge economic gains. I've talked about that. Environmental gains in terms of it really enhances the environment if you restore the environment, and social gains, getting water trails, parks, economic benefits, and so on. The second slide that was on there is something I've never discussed here before. I've focused more on the above the dam, but below the dam, East Main Street, extending north from town, it actually creates a dam in and of itself 5 feet higher than the dam on the Cedar River. And when it floods, the water comes through under the Island Park or the Snag Creek Bridge by Brown Bottle, and then it runs against East Main Street, which is a dam higher than the river itself, and forms a huge lake. You can actually, on the third slide there, the second page, there's a picture I took during the 2018 flood that shows the water is lapping at the East Main Street on the upstream side. On downstream, it's 3 feet lower. If we opened East Main Street, it would be 3 feet lower above it. And the difficulty there, the fourth slide shows the 100-year floodplain levels that FEMA published about a year ago. And you can see that I yellowed in, drew a yellow circle around the area that's basically a huge man-made impoundment sitting to the north of Cedar Falls. And when you look at it, at that map, you see it all points right down towards downtown. And the water in that impoundment has two ways out. One way is under the railroad bridge, which is over by Ikey's, right next to Ikey's auto recycling. The other one is right downtown where Snag Creek empties into the Cedar River above the railroad bridge. So what happens when it floods, we have a huge reservoir dumping water into the Cedar River downtown, and it all has to try and funnel under the railroad bridge. And next week I'll talk about what kind of a problem that can cause. But the fifth slide shows a close-up of the FEMA map, and you can see that above the railroad bridge, the river naturally at the 100-year flood level is 2 feet higher above the railroad bridge than it is below. If you go down and look at the flood walls along East Main Street, you'll see that the flood wall above East Main Street is 2 feet higher than it is below, because they've had to allow for that higher level when they built them. I like to present solutions whenever I talk about problems, and so getting back to the engineering with nature and the waterways and all of those benefits, the solution, one part of the solution, I won't say the solution, but a part of it is to give water another exit out of the East Main Reservoir, and nature has given us one. We just turned East Main Street into a dam across it, but if you were to drive up East Main Street to that sixth map, I can't remember the name of the street.
That is time, Mr. Proctor.
Huh?
That is time, 5 minutes.
Okay, but anyway, the solution is there. It's just putting a bridge on East Main and letting water follow its natural course. Thank you, sorry.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I got a text that there's no sound on the council telecast.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor. Hey, Denny, you want to check on the audio for the live stream? We'll keep going, but if you want to check on that and let us know.
We do have it here.
Okay. All right, we'll let you guys troubleshoot that in the background if you could, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Proctor. Anyone else for public comment this evening? All right, seeing none, we will move to staff updates. I believe we may have one or a couple.
Sure. Yes, I'd like to remind everyone that we're inviting community feedback for our Your City, Your Parks initiative. The survey is open through January 31st, so you just have, 10 days counting down. We'd like everybody to participate. We've had some great participation, but it's never too late for everybody to get involved. We'll be using that feedback to help in the creation of the park's master plan, identifying vision, goals, and improvements to sustainably maintain and grow our park system over the next 10 to 20 years. So on the screen here, you've got a QR code that you can use to get to the survey. You can also just go to www.cedarfalls.com, and right there on the home page, if you scroll down, there's a link to it.
Thank you, Director. And I did want to give a shout out in the audience. We've got, many of you may recognize him, Isaac Mata. So Isaac is going to be here potentially soon, coming on as our new student liaison for UNI. Officially, we're working on getting the recommendation from NISG so we can do the approval and get him on for the semester. So just want to say good to see you, Isaac, and looking forward to having you back. For those of you that don't know Isaac, he was also an intern at the city for our administrative internship. So, all right, special order of business. Item number 2, public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2025 to fiscal year 2030 capital improvements plan. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And then I believe we have staff comments from Director Jen Rodenbeck.
Yep. Thanks, Mayor. So tonight's the public hearing for the 5-year capital improvements program. On the CIP are 214 projects with a total of over $473 million. The CIP was presented at the January 6th council committee, and the CIP you have before you is that same one that was presented. Just kind of to reminder everybody that the CIP is a planning document that gives direction to staff. However, most of the items will come back before council in some kind of fashion. The items in the FY26 column will be incorporated into the FY26 budget that will come before council as well and have more discussion about. Our goal when developing the CIP is always to try to minimize the impact on property taxes, but focus on infrastructure improvements and quality of life projects. So the proposed CIP for you tonight was included in the packet. So if anyone's interested in viewing the CIP, obviously then go to the packet. Once it's adopted, then we will actually put it on our website with a link and people can get to it there. Also on the agenda I wanted to mention is adopting a reimbursement resolution. That's one of the things we do every year with our CIP. So if needed, we could get reimbursed by bond proceeds if we spend the dollars prior to getting those. So that's kind of the next item on the agenda. So I just thought I'd cover that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any questions for Jen at this point?
Mr. Mayor. Ms. Rodebeck, can you give us a little timeline here on how many meetings we have coming up that we could adjust things in the CIP based on public feedback and numbers of the valuations and where we're coming in at the millage rate?
Sure. So as we start the budget process, in February, we'll have a committee meeting. We're presenting to council where we're at, and obviously that's just kind of getting ready for what we would indicate might be a possible tax, property tax. So that would be a chance for people, like you said, whether it's council to discuss or public. And then we have to have 2 public hearings as part of our budget process. So those will also be opportunities for council to discuss changes, or if public wanted to, have a say in any of that, they can sure come to those public hearings as well.
February 3rd or 17th?
17th will be
17th.
the committee meeting, yep.
Okay.
And then the letters go out, as everyone knows, in March, and then we'll have those public hearings. They can't be any sooner, I think, than March 25th, so right now we would probably just plan on those for the 2 meetings in April. That's what we did last year. So yeah.
And then it's got to be certified by April
30th. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Director Rodenbeck right now? All right, otherwise we'll open it up to public comment on this item. Just name and address, please.
Good evening. Roger White, 2303 Greenwood Avenue. I'm also on your Bicycle Pedestrian Commission, and not Cedar Falls, but it's area-wide, but I'm on the Cedar Valley Trails Partnership Board. And I want to commend the city and the mayor particularly. I want to talk about CIP, but I'm going to spend just 10 seconds on the Trail Town proclamation that was performed a week or so ago, and declaring Cedar Falls a trail town. It's not trail friendly per se, but that's the effort to become more trail friendly, and coming from the Trails Partnership and from the Bike Pedestrian Commission. I applaud that, and I'm excited about the future. Now, CIP, since that's what I came to talk about primarily. I am encouraged, I'm excited by approximately 30 items in the CIP, not all current or next fiscal year, they extend on over the 5, but relate to sidewalks, trails, and parks, the areas that our commission is, both our commission and the Trail Partnership are very interested in. So I applaud that. I especially want to applaud the one item, I think it's item 114, the reconstruction of the trail at Prairie Lakes. Prairie Lakes is a blacktop asphalt trail. Tree roots undercut it and then cause a bubble, and it becomes very rough. And so the proposal is to repave it with concrete so tree roots won't have a chance. And And I'm excited for that. I know it's going to close the trail down this summer for a good number of weeks, but it's needed, and it will be a great asset when it's finished. Coming from when wearing my hat for the Cedar Trails Partnership, we have pledged at least $20,000 toward that project, and it looks like, based on current fundraising, we are closer to 30. We're at 29 something right now, and funds are still coming in. So we will help the city with that gladly, because it's something that we have an interest in, and we like this partnership of pairing with the jurisdiction. We've done it with George Wythe, we've done it with Waterloo, we've done it with Black Hawk County Conservation numerous times, and now this is our first time to do it with an extended contribution to the city of Cedar Falls, and it was turned to do that, and so we're glad to be able to do that. Going back to the CIP, I said there are almost 30 projects that are programmed over the next 5 years for parks, trails, sidewalks. Another 8 or so unprogrammed. We'd just like to put a pitch in to get those in the program next year, so we can get moving on those. So thank you very much, and please do adopt the CIP as it's proposed to you.
Roger, quick question. If somebody want to make a contribution.
Gerald, just because technically usually we won't do question and answer with public comment, so if you, Gerald, right?
I'm just looking for a contribution.
If you ask the mayor and the mayor asks me, I can answer.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question of where he would people would send contributions for that?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Mr. White, where would people that are interested in contributing to the bike trail system send comments?
The easiest way is to go to the Cedar Valley Trails Partnership website. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact link for that, but if you Google Cedar Valley Trails Partnership, it'll pop up, and there's a donate page as a part of that website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
I hope that stimulates some contributions.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
cedarvalleytrails.org.
cedarvalleytrails.org. Thank you very much.
And thank you guys as well for all the work on helping fundraise for this. So every dollar you guys raise is one less that we have to do some of our projects.
We're glad to do it because it extends how much can be done, and there's quite a bit to be done on that section of trail because of all of the trees, primarily willows. If we could get rid of the willows, we wouldn't have this much problem, but if we get rid of the asphalt and have concrete, we don't have the problem either. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. White. All right, anyone else for a public comment on this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Yep. Just name and address, please.
Kim Jensen Jordan in Cedar Falls. I would also like to say that we do have a lot of people within Cedar Falls that have been on different boards for a number of years, and it's been great to have those insights. I have been kind of watching the trails over the last couple of years now, and I'm just curious, and since Roger's here today, just to kind of put it out there, we did 27th Street right up by the Cedar Falls High School. And that was a great opportunity to maybe connect the Union Road project that I believe was $500,000 for a bike trail right along there. Just wondering why we didn't run down to the east from Union Road then to connect to the high school for accommodating students that have kind of been now displaced from the 1015 Division Street to kind of access a little bit easier. And some of those oversights make a big difference in the long run. So just kind of wanting to maybe look at that. And I know you were talking about the streets and alleys and so forth today, so that kind of pairs with that. Then if I could, just another moment, Governor Reynolds has made an adoption that I really strongly believe in, with no cell phones in the classrooms. And I'm just wondering if we could also do that in...
Kim, if it's not, it needs to be related to the CIP for discussion on this item, please.
Okay, yeah, that would just be kind of, I always see Public Safety Director Bertie on the cell phone, and I know he's got a wonderful
Again,
team under.
it needs to be related to the CIP, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, any other public discussion on the CIP item tonight, please? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion to approve and adopt the fiscal year 25, fiscal year 30 capital improvements plan.
So moved.
Second.
The motion seconded and open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
if I may. I just wanted to double check. Jen, do you, I'm sorry if I missed it before, but do you have a speculative number, how much, let's say, per $100,000 in moving from fiscal year 26 would impact our millage rate?
I probably don't have that right today, but I know that's always of interest when we talk about the budget stuff. So I just probably don't have that off the top of my head today, sorry.
No, I appreciate you trying at least. No,
Yeah.
We'll take care of it in a future meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Like we did in years past, is it possible for the council to put together some items that we could debate on whether we want to have on the CIP or not if we run into larger increases than we'd like on the millage rate? Because that's been done a number of years.
Well, and I can speak quick, Jen. The way I was planning to do it is once we have the CIP, we'll look at the actual total budget number and just based on kind of talking with everyone, have a pretty good feeling, I feel like, of where we'll be comfortable. So we'll come back with what that best proposal is, but probably with some ideas of, okay, if we're not feeling this, here's the areas maybe we would probably say are the first options to pull back on.
Sure. I mean, it doesn't hurt to always look at trimming an expense for the citizens, right?
Yeah. So to me, I kind of look at the CIP as the priority list, and then we'll see what we can fit in with what we think works and try to have some priorities if we feel like we want to pare back from that.
Starting point.
What are the best options?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? You look like something's on your mind.
I'm formulating a thought. It's always dangerous to speak from the hip, but
Mr. Mayor, I think we all have something on our mind, and
Yeah.
that after spending, I don't know, 100 hours, in goal setting, it was close, of talking exactly about this. I think we all have in our mind on what we want to do for the best, for the citizens, but at the same time, run the business, so. And we got another opportunity for another goal setting here coming up, so.
Yes, we do.
Not an opportunity for one. We get to do one.
We get to do one, it's not a, yes.
Did he stall long enough for you?
That's satisfying.
Yeah, did that
Oh, no.
thought come?
I just figured, this again is a planning document. I know it encompasses, some $400 million in expenditures over the next 5 years, a collaborative effort in many cases. So I don't have anything to try and strike tonight. I think the staff should have a sense of what might be on the chopping block if we come to a tough decision around tax time. So all those sentiments aside, I think I just want to remind the public that we can, I think maybe it was attributed to Ron in your State of the City address, that we can do anything here in Cedar Falls. We just maybe can't do everything that we want. But I think we can move it forward and see what we can get done.
Or how long it takes to do it.
Yeah. And so something just for those who may not know the whole budgeting process, the CIP and approving this will then go to us building the budget, and then the budget will have to get approved, which is really the key document. But if the budget is too high with trying to fit all this in, we'd go back and pare some things out and decide what's the priority. So still more work to do. Any other discussion for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, it requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to item number 3, resolution declaring an official intent under Treasury Regulation 1.150-2 to issue debt to reimburse the city for certain original expenditures paid in connection with specified projects. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion seconded. And Jen, I believe, did you have any information to present on this for council consideration tonight?
No, that's what I was just mentioning earlier, that we do it every year in case we would need to be reimbursed, for some reason, start a project before we sell the bonds. So pretty typical resolution we do every year.
So any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to item number 4, a public hearing to consider entering into an agreement for private development with BT Holdings LLC. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
Second.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, do we have any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And for comments, staff comments, we've got Shane Graham. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Mayor. For the past several months, staff has been working with Brent Johnson with BT Holdings LLC for the renovation of their existing property at 122 and 124 Main Street. Currently, that building has 2 main floor commercial tenants with upstairs living space. Plans for the project include complete renovation of the entire upstairs living areas, as well as updating all of the plumbing, electrical, and HVAC throughout the building. The owner is estimating that the project's going to cost approximately $400,000, and after the project is complete, there's an assessed valuation of the building in the likelihood of $1 million or more. This property is in the downtown urban renewal area, and for incentive for this area, we do offer, if council remembers, we did go from a 5-year to 10-year back in October, so this agreement does reflect that recent change by council. So this project then would include a 10-year tax rebate on any of the increment that's created above the existing building value. With that, staff's recommending approval, and the owner is here if there's any questions from council.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I'm,
Yeah.
Shane, I didn't see a cap on the, like a top dollar on the rebate. Is there a cap on this contract?
No, and I believe that was, we removed that for the last project that came through, and again, I think the thought is whatever it's eligible for, they put the improvements in, that's what they'll get.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
A few questions, Shane, on some mechanics. Project sounds really good. Just want to understand, we have assessed value of $506,000 and change. If it increases to $706,000, then they qualify for the tax increment, or do they have to spend $400,000? Because that looks like that's a stipulation here.
The requirement is the increase in valuation of $200,000.
That's the minimum, so anything above that.
Right.
Well, yeah, I'm just reading section 8.3. It's conditioned on the following: a total investment of at least $400,000. So he's obligated, the developer's obligated to spend $400,000 to qualify for this, even though the valuation might only increase 200?
Right, and yes, and that information was provided by the owner at the beginning of this process. What's the cost of the renovation or of the project, and then what's the anticipated valuation afterwards?
Okay, but if maybe he saves some money and doesn't spend $400,000, he has to spend $400,000? I mean, that's his numbers. He might spend more, usually you do, on a remodel.
If I can restate it, I think he's asking that with the wording of the contract, it almost sounds like he has to hit 400,000
Says-
to qualify.
It's,
It's section 8.3.
right,
Subset, or subpoint B. It says a total investment of at least 400,000 substantiated by documented receipts of invoices. So your section A of this speaks to what you just said, Shane, where he needs to spend at least $200,000 to be eligible for this rebate. B is just where it gets somewhat confusing because it suggests that he must spend a minimum of 400,000.
Yeah, and again, that's in all of the agreements. If we want to request receipts to substantiate that cost, we certainly can.
but they conflict each other, if I
I
read
guess
this as it's worded.
Right.
I guess so is the intent that if they invest at least 200,000, they will qualify, or is the intent that they have to invest 400,000?
It's the assessed value has to be 200,000. If it takes 400,000 to make a 200,000 increase, I mean, that's kind of costly. Do you have the wording in front of you? You can pull up?
Yeah, I don't have the full agreement in front of me,
Page
but
7.
I know what section you're referring to,
Okay.
right? And now whatever you put into it may not reflect the actual assessed value. So the 200,000, we're looking at what the actual valuation that the county assessor is going to increase the project by.
Sure.
They may have some other costs that are associated with it that don't get reflected by the assessed valuation after the project is complete.
Okay, I guess I would, Mr. Rogers, you want to comment on this? I mean, the wording of the contract, 8.3 conditions, item B, he has to spend $400,000.
This information was taken from the owner. The owner obviously has made a calculation that it's going to take a certain amount of investment to get to this valuation. A doesn't say anything about the cost. It says what the valuation is going to be. And it's been determined, not forced on by the city, that the investment's going to be this. It was up to the developer to arrive at that figure. It was incorporated into the agreement.
So then he has to spend $400,000 and end up with $706,000 evaluation.
That's what it says. The increment.
Okay, I'm just wondering. So then if, for whatever reason, he doesn't, then the table on further in the here with the 100% tax increase increments, year 2007, 27 to 28, if the valuation falls below 706, then on any contract, that's voids the rebate?
It wouldn't be eligible for the economic development grant, correct?
Okay. Seems a little wonky to me, but just saying.
And I'll say if we're comfortable with the contract, we can move forward with it. I'll say it's something we can look at just to make sure we're wording that correctly, but.
I mean, I understand these are the numbers from the developer, but the wording doesn't sound appropriate.
Mr. Mayor? So Shane, the developer is here. Is there opportunity they would like to speak on this matter?
I would say if council's got questions for him, certainly I would.
It's just the language here that he's telling us he's going to spend $400,000, and only get an increase of 706. I just doesn't see it.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
I'm just thinking of my own house, and sometimes when you're doing like HVAC and stuff, and obviously that can be pricey, is it wrong to think that even though I might put a new HVAC system in my house, the assessed value of my house isn't going to go up? It's still money I needed to spend. Am I wrong in thinking that that's the thought maybe behind this? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. There is no inconsistency between sub A and sub B and 8.3. To Mr. Rogers' point, one's talking about the assessed value, the other's what the developer intends to spend. And the 706 or the 7 plus it was what triggers the obligation, but it's my understanding from the explanation that's anticipated it's going to be upwards of $1 million in increase in valuation.
Total valuation.
Right, and so that's a substantial increase over the current assessed value. It's a contract. Parties enter into it voluntarily. They take their risks. So I'm in favor of it. I think if the developer's in favor of it, it's a good deal for the city.
I have no problem with it. I'm just saying that it's wonky.
I'm just making sure, thank you for pointing it out, just to make sure that we had the correct wording, but it seems like if both parties are comfortable with it, then no one's asking for a change with both parties in the room, so.
I'm just pointing this out.
Yep. So, okay. Thank you, Counselor. All right, any other questions while we've got Shane up there?
You see that?
Do you have something? Yeah. All right, so for this, 1 second here, get my notes put back in. So we will now move to public comments. Does anybody else in the room have anything they would like to speak on tonight for this item? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion for a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement for private development with BT Holdings LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded and open for discussion. Any additional discussion?
Yeah.
We have maybe a few things, but I just think oftentimes when I'm in, in our downtown or wherever there's, what I call placemakers. So obviously our downtown, I think in my mind is great because of the historic nature of our buildings. And I guess what I'm rambling on about is I really appreciate when the owners of these buildings do the work of maintaining them, because I feel like if we didn't have that, if we aren't maintaining them and they go away, then we kind of lose what's been built up by so many people over the decades. So kudos to Mr. Johnson and kudos to everyone who invests in their properties and keeps them up. And so thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please. We're waiting on you, Hannah. Was that? I know.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'll take a moment to mention there is currently no live stream. Channel 15 is still broadcasting. Sounds like YouTube's having some troubles, but we're perfectly fine from a meeting standpoint moving forward. So we'll try to make it work, but Channel 15 is still operating. So if anyone can't see on the live stream, well, you're not watching this if you can't see on the live stream. However,
It'll be Mr. Mayor, it'll be recorded for later.
it will be recorded for later viewing. Yes, correct.
Presumably.
All right, moving to item number 5, a public hearing to consider entering into an agreement for private development with UMENB LLC. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And again, for staff comments, we have Shane Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, as council may remember, in October 2024, council approved new incentive guidelines to encourage new residential development in Cedar Falls. One of those incentives is to provide a tax rebate to a developer to reimburse for 50% of the cost of the installation of public improvements, such as water, streets, sewer, et cetera. With that, City Council did adopt the Hidden Pines Urban Renewal Plan at its meeting on January 6th, which does now allow the city to enter into a development agreement with the developer to actually spell out the terms and of the tax rebates for that agreement. So with that, we've been working with Kyle Larson of UMENB LLC. Again, that's a 43-lot residential subdivision named Hidden Pines, located just south of Green Hill Road, east of Cedar Heights Drive. Again, City Council did approve the preliminary plat for that subdivision in April of 2023. Since then, the developer has been working to construct the public improvements. Those improvements are nearly complete, of which then a final plat and acceptance of the public improvements will be coming forth to City Council in the near future. Once those plans are approved by council, the developer will be able to then sell lots to begin constructing new dwellings within this development. So with that, this project is eligible under the newly established urban renewal plan for the consideration of a tax rebate for up to 10 years at 50% of the cost of the public improvements. That agreement is attached to your packet. They've indicated costs of $2 million for the public improvements, so the agreement then contemplates a tax rebate up to $1 million, which is that 50% of the cost of the public improvements over that 10-year time frame. With that, I have available for any questions.
Thank you, Shane. Any questions for Shane while we got him up there? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will now move to public comments, if anyone from the public would like to speak on this item tonight. All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion for a resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement for private development with UMENB LLC.
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded and open for discussion. And seeing none, it requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to item number 6, a public hearing on a proposed multi-residential urban revitalization plan for a proposed urban revitalization area. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
Written communication was received and placed in the council members' packets.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And again, we have staff comments from Shane Graham.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mayor.
Shane.
The proposed Cedar Falls multi-residential urban revitalization plan, again, has been developed to help promote multifamily residential development within this area of Cedar Falls near the intersection of Green Hill Road and Cedar Heights Drive. Again, this was a council directive back in October to bring forward both urban renewal plans to reimburse the developer, and then also urban revitalization plans, which then offers a tax abatement to the actual property owner. This plan is intended to encourage development, redevelopment, and revitalization within this area of the city by offering a tax incentive. That incentive is 10-year, 100% tax abatement on the increased valuation that a project may have. And this is for multifamily only, which is 3 dwelling units or more. The reason that this area was chosen for this urban revitalization area is that there is a proposed multifamily development, which is, I believe, upcoming on the council agenda for rezoning and site plan for a new 195-unit multifamily development, of which would qualify for incentives under this plan. Should be noted that once the packet went out, Mr. Ganfield alerted me to an error in the plan. There was a section in the urban revitalization plan that lists the existing zoning of the current properties. We did forget to mention several of the properties, so we did correct that and put it back into the packet. So I just wanted to make note on the record that we did fix that and put that in the updated packet. I am available if there's any questions.
Shane, can you tell where that correction is at the end here?
I think it's letter D, existing zoning in the plan. In the original packet that was sent out, it just noted that there was a property, that the property was zoned R2, but there is other properties in this proposed area zoned MU multi-use or mixed use and R4 multifamily. So we did correct that in the packet.
So you're saying any zones in the city with these designations would qualify for the 10-year?
No. It's just pointing out what zoning districts are within the proposed urban revitalization area.
Okay.
Yep, so this does only apply to that geographic area that's designated.
So then then this might be separate then. So clarify then the 5-year to 10-year residential TIF program, that can be anywhere in the city? Or do they have to create a district for that?
So, yeah, so urban renewal, or like what we just had with the last item on the agenda, is creating an urban renewal area, which council did at its last meeting. This is creating an urban revitalization area. And if we're going to promote or add any additional, we'll have to go through this same process to add new areas.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I did verify that published packet encompassed all those areas. It's, the map boundaries there are the Church of Latter-day Saints on that corner and the residential districts to the south of that, which includes some R4, one sliver of A1 that's residential use. And the R2 might be changing in a future public hearing. So thank you for making those changes. I just wanted to have you clarify, if you would, on the boundaries that are proposed. I did hear some comments. I listened to folks without my mind made up. I wanted to come to here and hear both sides of this proposal. What dictates how big that boundary can be? We certainly couldn't put a revitalization zone on just the church parcel. I know that was part of it. But how much flexibility is there to that zone that all the properties are currently in?
Correct. So the state code says that you cannot create an urban revitalization area over one property with one building. So if we were to just do it for this proposed project, that wouldn't be in compliance with state code. So what we did as staff, we looked at the surrounding area for other areas that could be, incentivized areas. We noticed there was 2 vacant pieces of land to the south that were zoned MU and R4, which do allow for multifamily use. And so the decision was made to include those properties into this urban revitalization area.
I think it is worth noting there's also strips in the middle that are already developed that are in this revitalization plan. If an owner chose to make some changes there, they could qualify. But most of this is developed, correct?
Most of it's developed, and this plan is for multifamily only, so it's three dwelling units or more. So if you have a single family house and they did some improvements, that wouldn't qualify under this plan.
Right.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions while we have Shane up? All right, thank you, Shane. We will now move to public comments for this item. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this tonight? Just name and address, please.
Luke Hannenberg, 4907 Millennium Drive, Cedar Falls. So to Councilman's point, us and a number of our neighbors have been discussing this as the boundaries do come quite far south, basically into our backyards. And most of the neighborhood bought our houses knowing that we have prairie behind our houses and wanting that. It's also basically all single-family homes and not wanting to live next to multi-residential units, which is why we did not buy next to multi-residential units. So the north part, the church parcel, most of us do not have any concern with that piece of it, but the two strips that are behind the existing development, from a spatial and traffic perspective, we're not fans of that. They're fairly small strips of land for development into that. And then would be adding additional traffic onto Cedar Heights, which there were a number of improvements made to decrease that, as well as you're kind of negating a number of state and county programs which aim to improve green space, habitats and whatnot. So kind of seems like, you're trying it on one side and demolishing it on the other side. So just kind of that mixing of single family and multi-residential units, and then the space allotments there have a lot of us concerned. So just wanted to bring that up to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamburg. Anyone else from the public? Yep. Just name and address, please.
Joni Snyder, 4817 Millennium Drive. I am opposed to this plan for the multi-residential urban revitalization plan. First of all, the lots 1 through 41 on Huntington Ridge First Edition and lots 1 through 41 on Huntington Ridge Second Edition do not meet the criteria for Iowa Code 404. These houses have all been built in the last 20 years and are not dilapidated. So those should be excluded from the legal description that we were provided. And if those were excluded, this should be coming before public comment again. As my neighbors have also suggested, the two strips of land bordering Millennium Drive and Luke Street are very slim. They don't allow much room for road access, and if you would put road access on Huntington, it would be right up next to the new roundabout, which does not seem convenient. And if there wasn't a road and people are just backing out onto Cedar Heights, that'd be pretty dangerous with how busy that road is. I would also point out that the areas along Millennium and Luke are in the Waterloo School District. And if we're providing a tax abatement for Cedar Falls, I think we should also be doing it for property in the Cedar Falls School District. We would have impacts to the Waterloo School District by adding multifamily in that school district. As far as the property that was previously the church, it sounds like there's already plans for apartment buildings there, so it doesn't seem like there's a need to provide an incentive for taxes for this property. Definition of an incentive is a thing that motivates or encourages one to do something. They're already planning on doing this. From what I've seen in the council packet, it looks like this property is going to be managed by an out-of-state company, so it's not benefiting a local company as far as I'm aware. And so for those reasons, I would reject this plan. I don't see any benefit for Cedar Falls in this designated area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public for public comment tonight? Just name and address, please.
Kim Jensen Jordan, Cedar Falls. I know that area very well. My first house was at 5721 Prairie Street, and it is a no-man zone. Waterloo Schools, Cedar Falls, city limits, Mayo. School systems matter, and I know as council we look at the needs of all people within the city, but we also have to look at the boundary line changes that can be made every 7 years. And when we are considering infrastructure, and allowing especially an out-of-state developer to move in and to put extra traffic onto our roads and affect the schools as well. I think that that gives all council a little bit more to think about. I can get up and say the same thing with another development, and I think we should also be looking at the planned studies that we've had, that we've paid for in the years past, with road traffic studies as to why we have done something for public safety also to that area, and the response times that we're going to be putting onto those areas, which then also affect the budget, because as I've been looking through our yearly budgets, we are very aware of how public safety dollars are driven on the valuation of homes. And what are we doing with these houses if we're going multi-family? Who are these people that are moving in here? How do we control maybe sex offenders? How are we registering? How are we placing them within? There's a lot of variables that moving into and removing green space and developing, I think we have to be mindful, especially when we have out-of-town districts and we're moving them in and needing those conversations with school districts and definitely the neighborhoods. It also impacts the infrastructure. The sewer department is coming up next or soon. So if we're only allowing them to come in so that we can update some of that, my house, I put a brand new septic tank in. I had a well as well. So connecting to city services were not made at that point, and it was left to the developer that was going to be coming in. So it does hit every single one of us as taxpayers when we're already looking at, we have this for our utility water usage, we have a budget for our sewer department, we have street department budgetary lines. It's all part of the capital, and yet we're looking at multifamilies all over. And we have partners with the school, we have partners with every one of us as citizens and taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren Jensen. Something I just want to comment on, not just for tonight's meeting, but I know it's been brought up in several, just referring to rentals as and apartments as having crime issues, as having particular types of people that live there. I would just like to ask personally that we stop alluding to apartments and rentals as having a lower class of people living in them. I know it's something that's been brought up several times. I know our council has addressed this, but I do just want to make a personal request that that's not something that is really, in my mind, appropriate for us to be alluding to with rentals. I do know there are concerns with traffic and a lot of valid concerns around that, but it's not our place to choose who lives in the housing in our community, and I would just like to make that statement. So, all right, anyone else for a public comment on this item tonight? All right, thank you. We'll close the public hearing, and I'll look for a motion, a resolution approving and adopting the multi-residential urban revitalization plan for a proposed urban revitalization area.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded and open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think as we kind of sit here as the judges on this item, I feel it is helpful to kind of explain our process on this. Representing that ward, I've heard from a lot of people in that area, several of which couldn't be here for public hearing tonight, so I just wanted to go on record and say in Code 404, there is a provision for a request for a second hearing if somebody didn't have an opportunity to be heard. That doesn't stop us from moving forward with this item, and any subsequent ordinance change would require 3 public readings. I would recommend that those weren't able to be heard tonight. Take a look at that, whether they would need to utilize that. Having heard from some of those issues and some tonight, I just wanted to process through this out loud. So Mr. Hannenberg, I think that resonates with me a bit when you say, hey, this is why we bought our house. I had another individual in a separate section south of town that has a lot of green space, and they were allegedly promised by their developer that that would always be green space set aside. That developer likely didn't make that promise, and if they did, they should not have. The only way to preserve green space set aside is if you bought your backyard and the prairie behind it. So part of that is it's difficult to adjust to change, right? That it's not lost on me because I don't know how I'd feel if it was my backyard after I just bought a nice new house and all the feelings that go with that. And to Ms. Snyder's point, I do think there is some concern there. I'd like to bring up about those properties that are in great repair. I'm not convinced they meet code section 404, I think it's .1, that says what you have to find the properties are in need of, save the portion that says it would be helpful to economic development, where we've all just seen with our housing study that we need more housing units in Cedar Falls improper. And when we bring in more residential housing units, it brings up the tax base and lessens the tax burden. So yes, there could be a 10-year abatement on some of these properties, but it's going to help that cost in the long run. So a short-sighted lens says this is a disappointment for sure if it passes and goes forward. And the long lens says maybe there's some value in this early investment. I would echo some of our other council members that say this is a tough job. It's a tough decision to have to make, right? I think I do want to look into those couple of items. And Shane, I trust, that you've already taken a look at that middle strip that's developed, and the qualifications there would meet under the benefit for the community and economic development, not blighted or slum, correct? For this revite plan? If you wouldn't mind me putting you on the spot. Thank you, sir.
So this particular urban revitalization plan is for multifamily. It's to encourage new multifamily development. In the urban revitalization code, there's several different designations. There's one as slum and blight, historic, and then just single-family housing and multifamily. That's what this area is being designated as.
And this one, because it's multifamily for the good of the whole community, it does qualify per that state code provision, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll just, one other thing that, as I was listening to some of the comments, urban revitalization does not include abatement of the school tax. That was something that the state legislature just adopted January 1st of 2024. So there was some, I believe this is in the Waterloo School District, but those taxes still get sent to the school per state code. And then I believe there was a comment about an existing project that's going to be coming before council. They're aware of this program, and it's going to be very helpful for their development. So,
thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. And really quick, if I can, Gil. One thing I did want to include is that, and as I said that, I lost my train of thought. I'm going to let you go, Gil. I'll circle back.
So Shane, just for reference, the boundary, what was how's the determination of the boundary? Or is it just simply the request from the developer or the interested parties that would have said, all right, let's not go any further south than the top of Millennial Drive or to the southeast and southwest of Luke and Millennial? What dictated to have those areas included?
Sure. So that was a staff decision. As I indicated earlier, we've been talking with the developer for the item later on in the agenda. And per state code, we can't include just that one property in an urban revitalization area. State code says you can't have one building, one parcel. So that's where internally staff looked at the surrounding area and saw that there was a couple vacant properties nearby that were zoned already for multifamily development. So the thought was include those so we can comply with the state code, and it also includes existing vacant property within the city that has services that's zoned for multifamily residential uses.
So, and just a quick follow-up on the southeast section of the strip along parallel with Luke, are there services already there, and do you have any idea how the access to those? It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of space there.
Yes, there is services to it. Actually, for the Hidden Pine subdivision, the owner of that property had to run sanitary sewer up through that parcel to gain access to the sanitary sewer line on Huntington Road. And actually, we have talked with the owner of that property who might be interested in doing a single-family development. Again, this program, if adopted, wouldn't apply then if they were to do single-family homes, because it would just be this plan is for multifamily only. And again, for both of the vacant parcels, we don't have projects identified. No one's come to us, like I said, other than we have had a discussion with the property owner to the east there about doing something maybe on a single-family level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And if I can speak to something there. So what I was going to say is, just to make sure we're all aware, and some of the public comment as well. This is really just for that incentive overlay. Currently, the zoning does allow for mixed use, so if someone came forward today with a mixed use project or a multifamily project, it would be allowed. So we're not really allowing any new type of development. This is just the incentive piece. But I do think we need to address, are we looking to incentivize that type of development in this area? Because currently the zoning does allow it. So we're not changing anything about what's allowed to be developed there, just looking at that overlay. It does sound like we can discuss if it's appropriate to have that incentive overlay in that district, which is what we're doing tonight. But just wanted to make sure we have that clear.
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor?
So you're saying the land east and west of Millennial and Luke is already zoned such that multi-use could be put in there?
Correct. I believe just to the west is mixed use, MU, and then the one to the east is R4. R4.
That's correct. So what we're doing is we're adding an incentive.
Correct.
Correct.
And so the comments that have been said here are accurate in some sense, that there could be multi-use there, but it's already zoned that way. It's just adding the incentive to make it that way.
Correct.
And is this not common ownership? This is just the staff expanding, the way I understand it, Shane? You said you're expanding because it's nearby. And I didn't quite catch the thing. You said there's only one property on it, or one building? What was you referring to?
The property at the corner of Green Hill and Cedar Heights, that's the proposed 195 multifamily units. That's one property.
Okay.
So we initially were looking at including just that property in an urban revitalization area, but the state code says you can't just have one property. So that's why staff then looked at some of the surrounding properties to see, since we can't have just one property, what other properties could be included.
One ownership, basically.
Yeah, I think the state code says one building, or, and that current property just has one, that the former church building is the only building on that property.
So even though they're putting in what do you say, 100 and some units, to do this incentive, you have to bring in other property. And that's where we're coming down with these others.
Correct.
And
so how would the homeowners there proceed to kind of push back against this so they have some assurance that single-family homes will be built behind them? Is there a way they do that?
Yeah.
Apparently not. I don't know.
I mean, it's this process, I would say the zoning currently allows it. So whenever the development would come forward, there would be the same P&Z process approvals that they could come to.
So this isn't owned by the same people?
No.
Correct.
Is there 3 different owners maybe? Each sliver is different owner?
Correct.
Okay.
So one thing I will say is from a standpoint for tonight's meeting, so with that northern portion of it, regardless of the 2 sections I think we're hearing concerns about, we can do the district for that area. One option for tonight, we've looked at this, is we can motion to defer this to the next meeting, so only delay it by 2 weeks, with direction to staff if we have concerns about these southern portions being included, and just the incentive piece, because again, to reiterate, the zoning currently allows for multifamily, so we're not addressing the zoning, but if we didn't feel it was appropriate to want to put that incentive overlay over those areas, we can make that motion to defer this to the next meeting with direction to staff to review that district and take out that portion if we would like to.
Mr. Mayor? Can I kind of, I guess, my thought is first, we're very early in when it's said, how can we push back against this? I mean, these folks are doing it. They're showing up and they're speaking, and we're very early in the process. As far as this piece of incentivizing, I mean, we've been talking about housing and how, I mean, I went to the Blackhawk County Health Department's summit, and I think we were all invited to it, but what are the top things that affect people's health in Blackhawk County? The number 2 thing was housing stability and affordable housing. I don't even want to get into that discussion, but obviously what people can afford, what they make in this community. So to me, I guess when we have something that could help a developer make something more affordable for more of us, I don't wish to delay. I appreciate this work and all the work that we've done since basically a year ago at this time. I mean, a big part of this was the Housing Trust Fund. So like kudos to all that work, and I'm all for it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a little bit of concern that we have so many questions and seem to be struggling to understand this. I really appreciate Councilman Ganfield. He came forward with his questions, understanding. He already contacted Shane, asked his questions, clarified. It is already 8 o'clock and we haven't moved very far along in this. Now, obviously, there's always room for discussion, not to limit that. And of course, the public always has an opportunity to come forward. But I think as a council, we really need to work to make sure we understand all of these things before we come here. For me, this is just defining a boundary to incentivize some potential mixed-use buildings. I think it's a great idea, and we should move forward with it.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor. I'd like to do as you suggested and motion to defer this to the next meeting so staff has a chance to clarify, as I understand how you described it.
Well, the only reason we motion to defer is if we're giving specific direction for them to take those areas out.
Two lower parcels. I would like to do so because in this proposal, there's nothing there for those lower two pieces of land on the east and west of Millennial and, what's the other one, Luke? If we can take that out, I'd like to see that happen, and I'm sure the citizens would like some assurance that they would have a little more control of what gets built there, and this is the appropriate time to do it.
So if I can recap or rephrase it or phrase it for the motion would be to defer this to the next meeting with direction to staff to look at removing those lower southern sections of it and come back with the amended.
Correct, as it wouldn't affect the
Mr.
proposal.
Mayor, can we do that, or does it need to go back to P&Z then?
No, we can do that. We made sure to check ahead of time what the options were for this, so.
But Mr. Mayor, wasn't it to Shane's point that he can't have a revitalization program based just on the northern?
Well, so we can, there's two properties and two buildings on that section. If you look at the map, there is.
Oh, there is two properties in that northern section.
Yep, so we could do it with those two. Yep.
Perfect.
So there's a motion for that. I'm looking for a second.
I'd second that change. I don't know that we need to defer if we can change it.
We cannot change it on the fly because we would have to change the legal description within it. So it would need to be a deferral for the 2 weeks to come back at the next meeting with the changes made. Or,
Mr. Mayor,
one second.
discussion right now? He did a second, we discussed.
Just making sure he did a second.
Yeah, it's a second to defer. There's some members of the public that weren't able to make it tonight. I think that would be honoring there as well.
So a motion second, any discussion on a deferral to the next meeting with the direction to come back with those lower southern portions removed from the incentive overlay?
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify, what are those two zoned right now? What could go there right now without the incentivization?
Pretty much anything.
You mean those two smaller
The ones that we're asking?
Yeah, the one on the east is zoned R4, multi-residential, so they could have single-family, multifamily, and then the west parcel is zoned MU mixed use, which does allow single-family and multifamily dwellings. So those would be allowed, as Mayor indicated, by right now, with or without this plan.
Thank you, Shane. So I guess my comeback to that is, I guess I'm confused. What are we, because I heard I want to control, or we want the citizens to be able to control what will be built there, but it's already allowed. So are we understanding that that's not removing them from this
The
incentivization? I keep saying that incorrectly, but I'm sorry. Is not going to change what can be built there currently. Am I wrong?
You're correct. It's just adding the incentive piece to it which is adding an incentive to people to look to come for this area. So it is putting an emphasis on that type of housing.
On building housing, which we need.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I think on the potential for delay in removing those, there's also some concern in my mind about the green space requirement that we haven't yet finalized through the current, again, submit your My Parks plan, because we haven't yet gotten those findings. I don't know that there's enough green space set aside for 195 new units. Those southern two strips, whether they were single-family, duplexes, or multifamily, I think I'd like to see that Parks Master Plan advise us on these two areas. That's why I'd be in favor of removing those as well. I have done the math. Actually, if you go to Google Overlay and you put in a measurement, you can see that even the larger multi-units that are up in the old Tunis Speedway on Green Hill fit in these zones, but that's not up to me to decide. That would be up to a future developer. I do think addressing those southern portions in a future time, once we have some direction on parks, would be advisable as well. So if we can incentivize the current proposal in the north and with a deferral, reassess those two southern areas. I'm not ready to incentivize movement. I know we've gotten no development in those for many years now. I get that. But I don't want to incentivize it without telling them how much green space set aside I'd like either. So that's why I'm in favor of deferring it and removing those southern portions.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep.
I'm not in favor of delaying this. The reality is that we're not here tonight talking about land use, what can or cannot be built there. The incentive area is something I think is a tool that's available to us if we adopt the area. We're fighting windmills. There's no developer out there for the east or west parcels that we're talking about. We don't know what that development might look like if it were to come to fruition. If it were to come to fruition, it would go through planning and zoning, and it would come before us again to look at it and address every single one of the concerns that we've had. So I look at the incentivization as simply that. It provides us the tool that there may be developers out there that will approach the city with plans to further increase our housing stock. So I'm in favor of just moving ahead.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion for the deferral specifically as we're on that?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I just think the fact that it's already zoned for this, I don't really see a point in deferring it. It's already been stated, this could be built already. We're just giving someone a reason to build it if we put the incentivization in here. Being that it's already zoned this way, I don't think we're really changing anything other than giving the incentive towards it. So I don't think delaying it by 2 weeks really changes anything for us.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion for the motion for the deferral?
Mr. Mayor. I guess if I understand what Councilor Ganfield is saying is that there are citizens that would like to be here to speak to this. Another 2 weeks. Yeah, I understand it's already zoned for R4 and multi-use. But when you put an incentive, you're putting like a big flashing lights and say, here's arrows, build here, build here, build here. And if we don't necessarily want that, the citizens don't want that for a variety of reasons, it doesn't affect what is being proposed here. It's going to delay it a couple weeks and take away the flashing lights to say, hey, come here, build, build, build. So I think that's appropriate. I prefer to have a diagram of something that is proposed before I give them the incentive, is how I see it. And then the citizens will have a chance to see, do we want to allow or should we speak up against the incentive for some bare land here? I mean,
Let's be clear, they would still have to go through a full,
I understand.
they're not guaranteed the
I'm
incentive.
understanding
They'll
that.
have to go through
But
approval for
to
that.
defer, we get a chance to talk about it. More people can visit. And so, some of the points that Councilor Ganfield had said, I think it's appropriate. It doesn't delay this project anything. We're in the heart of winter here, so it's just a matter of giving a fair opportunity for everybody to speak.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. Any discussion for the deferral? All right, and since we did do that as a separate motion, I will open it up for public comment on that deferral to make sure we have the comment. So any public comment on the deferral specifically, just the resolution to look at deferring it to, with the direction to remove the.
I would point out that the legal description still includes all 82 residential lots that are fully developed, which would provide incentive to turn an established single-family subdivision into multi-units. Like, I don't want my subdivision to have houses torn down or have accessory dwelling units added on to add value to people's houses that they think they can get a 10-year tax deferment on. So I think that is an important part of deferring this because there's 82 lots that need to be removed from that legal description at a minimum.
Go ahead. Yep.
I am in favor of deferring it, as was pointed out, just the, yes, they could build on it either way, but taking your wording, I believe, but taking the flashing red light off of it that, you know, yes, there may be a need for housing, but they're developing part of it already without the incentive, and don't incentivize them to develop areas that the neighbors are not in favor of. If there's other areas that we can incentivize that have more people in favor of, I think that would be a better path forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment on this?
Yeah, I was wanting to clean up the fact that there was no intention to say that rental properties do have certain people. It is just something that I think it crosses. We have a lot of illegal, we have a lot of movement, and the schools do need consistent numbers to kind of budget. So again, everything kind of hinges back to schools as well. But then I was making some notes that if we do have a single dwelling housing unit of 50 houses, and we're looking at 195, do we have a formula to even put together? And I am in favor of deferring because we're increasing like 3% or 3 times the amount of parcels that might be out there. And I think that maybe that's something with moving forward with these revitalizations too, because we have so many nice neighborhoods and people do value being able to put the value into their home, and they want to make sure that they get it back out with what's being put up. And green space is always huge in the resale. So thank you for letting me clarify that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan Jensen. Any other public comment for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, come back for, so we have the motion, just to clarify, motion for deferral with the direction of staff to remove those southern portions and bring that back to the next council meeting. So,
For clarity, let's continue the public hearing to next meeting.
yes, and we would then reopen the public hearing if we did so to the next meeting. Mr. Tech, do we require a roll call vote for that, Attorney Rogers, or just voice vote for the, so all those in favor for the deferral?
Aye.
Aye.
And did you get that?
I'm still waiting to see.
We'll do hands for all those in favor. And all those opposed. Sign. So that motion does not carry. So we'll go back to the original motion to look at approving, excuse me, let me get back here. So the original motion to approve the adopting the multi-residential urban revitalization plan for a proposed urban revitalization area. So any additional discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Shane, could you explain or just for, you know, we all did do our homework on this and we all read through this and this has brought up a lot of other questions. Is there a impact specifically to the established homes on Millennial and Luke being put into a revitalization for either good or bad?
No. This is a multi-family urban revitalization plan that only affects 3-unit dwellings or more, 3 or more. So most likely, if they're all single-family homes already developed on Millennial and Luke, and this wouldn't impact. So they wouldn't qualify for any improvements, and you know, they would be within the area, but they wouldn't be eligible for any of the incentives under this program.
And the impact wouldn't be detrimental to their valuation, or is that just a matter of opinion?
Yes. I don't think the county assessor, when they assess property, looks at whether or not a property's in an urban renewal or revitalization area or not. Now, they adjust the taxes if it's eligible, but I don't know if that weighs into how they assess a property.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Counselor.
Shane, if in that developed area, we had something like the Palisades Fire take out 3, 4, 5 properties, somebody could buy that and put a multiplex in there because it's going to be in the zone. And it currently is in the zone, correct?
So if maybe I can jump in real quick, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
So if I'm correct here, that's zoned MU. So there would have to be a master plan that would come forward with any changes in that residential area. So for instance, in Mr. Cruz's example, if somebody came in and said, hey, the whole thing's wiped out and we want to come in and do something different with it, it would have to go through P&Z to update a master plan again. So, or if, let's say somebody came in and wanted to buy 2 or 3 of the homes and combine them, that would still have to go through planning and zoning for all of those lots to be either combined or something. So there's still many processes that would have to happen.
But it's currently allowed to do so.
With a council approval or planning and zoning approval?
The process, correct.
Yeah, through the process.
But now there's an incentive to do that.
And I would point out
that's what concerns the citizens.
True. I would point out we're talking about a very hypothetical and again, this district won't last forever. We're talking about something that's.
Didn't think it would be wiped out.
So I would say in terms of technicalities, Shane, you probably correct me, like there's a technicality of yes, this could potentially happen someday. But again, this is why we have planning and zoning. This is why we have city council, full approval processes for any new developments, is any development would have to go through the process to ensure it fits with the neighborhood, with the zoning intentions of that, what fits in that area. And I have a lot of faith in our community planning and zoning and processes that.
So then, Mr. Mayor, you're confirming probably then, for the citizens' sake, that even though we put the incentive in there, and my flashing light example, whatever comes forward has to go to planning and zoning, and then they can express their concerns then again.
Yes, correct.
Okay, if that helps at all.
Thank you, Shane. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none requires this one we're on, is a roll call vote, please.
Five voting aye, 2 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
And that motion does carry. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to item number 7, pass an ordinance designating the multi-residential urban revitalization area of the city of Cedar Falls, Iowa upon its first consideration. This item is contingent upon that previous one. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded and open for discussion. Seeing none from council, any discussion from the public? All right, also seeing none requires a roll call vote, please.
Six voting aye, 1 voting nay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion carries. Item number 8, public hearing on the proposed rezoning from R2 Residential District to MU Mixed Use Residential District of property located at 4616 Cedar Heights Drive. Do we have a motion to receive and file proof of publication of notice of hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed? That motion carries. And Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and for this, we've got a presentation from Karen Howard. Thank you, Karen.
Hi, good evening. Get my little clicker here, because I do have some slides to show here. This is in the same area that we were just talking about. This is a rezoning from R2 Residence District to the Mixed Use Residence District, 13.28 acres at the corner of Green Hill Road and Cedar Heights Drive.
Ms. Howard, sorry to interrupt, if I may. I just wanted to clarify, this is a portion of the revitalization district, right? I just wanted to make sure people viewing the map didn't get confused.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Thank you.
Yes. It is the northern portion of what we were just talking about. So the approval criteria for a rezoning, we usually have several steps to that. It needs to be consistent with the future land use map and the comprehensive plan. You'll see that on the map here. This area is designated as appropriate for neighborhood commercial and mixed use. That's the rose-colored area on the map. All utilities and services are readily available to this site, and it does have good road access. It has access to both Cedar Heights Drive and to Green Hill Road. There is an additional requirement for rezoning to the mixed use, and that's approval of a master plan. So just to go over that just a little bit, there is a detailed site plan that will come before you at the third reading. We'll go through more of that, the details then. But I wanted to go through an overview of that. There's 5 39-unit apartment buildings totaling 195 units total in this development. They have 421 total parking spaces. That meets the parking requirements, and 96 garage spaces. There are 2 access points to this, one on Cedar Heights Drive, and then there's an access point through the Sager Avenue connection over to Green Hill Road. They have amenities proposed on the site for this development and the people that will live here in the future, including a clubhouse, swimming pool, playground, pickleball courts, and a dog park for this development. So it has a lot of amenities proposed for this residential area. There's a detailed site plan that must comply with the mixed-use district standards, that site plan does. And it also is located, you can see the green area on the map here, it's also within the Highway and Greenbelt Overlay District. That district requires enhanced landscaping and additional open space. So the site plan that you see before you does meet all those criteria. This is just a rendering submitted by the applicant to kind of show you what the development, kind of a bird's eye view from looking from Green Hill Road, or excuse me, Cedar Heights Drive. This is a rendering of the residential buildings that will be proposed. And that central amenity area that's proposed with a playground and pickleball courts and a pool and a clubhouse. So the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommends approval of this rezoning, 13 acres at this site. Approval of the rezoning to mixed use will include the execution of a developmental procedures agreement to ensure compliance with the district plan and required improvements to the intersection of Sager Avenue and Green Hill Road. And also approval of the associated mixed use district site plan. And those items will be on third reading, at the third reading of this rezoning. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Ms. Howard, if I may, the Sager and Green Hill intersection improvements, that's in the Waterloo boundaries, is that the lighted intersection there that needs improvements, or the connection through the UME&B lot that we're talking about?
Let's see if we can get something up here. I don't know if it shows that intersection on this plan.
Not much, yeah, just the lining for it.
Right.
But yeah, just the upper right
So
corner.
if you recall, the Hidden Pines development has a road connection to, and has required to continue Sager Avenue. And that connection from Sager Avenue is to Green Hill Road. So this development will connect to Sager Avenue, which will then connect to Green Hill Road. At that intersection, the traffic study that was submitted showed that some additional improvements would be needed to handle the traffic from this development.
And I just wanted to make sure we're not imposing upon Waterloo. They're already planning those traffic improvements at that intersection, or would they take this into account as some changes?
That intersection is in Cedar Falls.
Yeah, I'm insane.
Yeah, pretty close to the boundary, but it is in Cedar Falls.
I'm picturing the hanging lights further down on Progress.
Oh, right.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Sane questions?
Sane questions only, please.
All right, thank you, Karen. So now open this up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item tonight? Just your name, please.
Kim Johnson Jordan. We do also need to be mindful of the fire departments and who is actually going to be assisting. That's going to be a lot of units. We're talking about 400 potentially. So again, looking through and knowing that we're always fiscally trying to cut the expenses to public safety, and which includes the fire and police. That's going to be kind of, if it's not putting pressure on the sewer and the infrastructure, it's going to be personnel and other things. And then are we covered by pinpoints enough? And then that goes back to some of the things that we'll be talking with where we're moving forward with capital improvements and so forth. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oranges. Any other public comment for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we will now close the public hearing and look for a motion to pass an ordinance amending the zoning map by removing approximately 13.28 acres of property located at the southeast corner of Green Hill and Cedar Heights from R2 residential district and placing the same into MU mixed-use residential district upon its first consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor, it was mentioned that this is a developer that's not local, and I just wanted to give them some credit. They have worked with our staff really well. When they came forward with this idea, it was very well planned out, and I think that the community should be really excited to have a potential new development that includes so many amenities. I don't think there's another like this in Cedar Falls that offers quite as many different things. And we've been talking a lot about wanting to require more of these things, and they just offered them up to us. So that's great. So I'm excited to see this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. Mayor? I think it's also worth noting, these are brand-new amenities. They're going to have all the latest and greatest in fire suppression, so I do know the residents of these potential buildings are going to be good. There's also only 2 signalized intersections between here and our brand-new public safety building. I do think response to these would be adequate and fine in that regard. It's just it looks like a great potential here as well, and I would pile on as well, we need to be cautious about talking about our school districts. I think this really does have a good potential with the brand new high school in Waterloo to see some real growth in our tax base and in our residents. So I think it is kind of that answer to Councilmember Dunn's point. Our housing needs assessment says we need these units, and to have an entity that's bringing forward 195 pristine units with a pickleball court and a pool, like we can't get it's a smaller pool, right? The cost isn't going to be that bad, but
Olympic size.
This is a fantastic addition, and it's in line with the land use map and in that district. I'm excited to get it going.
To be clear, there will be no public hours
Yeah, that's
at
right.
this
Yeah,
pool, I
weird.
believe.
$1,200 a month, you might be able to get yourself a
Right.
spot in the clubhouse.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead, Councilor.
This would be to staff, I guess, that some of the potential concerns brought up by the speaker, when something is developed, there's always a consideration for the sanitary sewer for the city and public safety access, police, fire, ambulance. That's all considered with the street connections and the, what's it called, master plan or the city plan?
Yes, when it goes through that site plan review, our internal staff committee includes all of those divisions that were mentioned to make sure that it's planned as efficiently as possible for us to deliver those services.
Sure. Efficiently and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other council discussion for this item tonight?
I'm confused on the Sager, Green Hill. Seriously, I am.
You're confused that I said I'm insane? Come on.
So are we proposing a roundabout on Green Hill that intersects with Progress?
We are not proposing a roundabout.
Okay, that's.
So there's already an intersection at Sager and Green Hill Road. And with the traffic study for this development, it showed that there would be some initial turn lanes needed at that intersection. So those are the improvements we're talking about, and the developer for this project will be funding those improvements.
Fantastic.
Very good. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen. Anything else, Councilor?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Dustin has me right on track.
Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That motion passes. We'll move to item number 9, public hearing on the proposed plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of costs for the 2025 sanitary sewer rehabilitation project. Do we have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And for staff comments, tonight we have Tyler Griffin. Thank you, Tyler.
Put this up a little higher. Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's final public hearing, I believe, is the 2025 sanitary sewer rehabilitation project. This project consists of installing a cured-in-place liner in 5,400 feet of existing sanitary sewer mains, followed by the reinstallation of 58 services. These sewer mains are located throughout the city and have been selected based on pipe condition and age. The estimated cost is $274,000 and is funded by sewer rental funds. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tyler. You got something?
I just want to know you love your job, right?
I love it. Yes.
Appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Yep, go ahead.
This is part of the annual upkeep for the sewer system?
Yep, correct.
They
I
use-
believe we've been doing an annual lining project since 1993.
Okay, so I thought, okay, thank you.
Any other questions for council? All right, thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.
And move to any public comments for this item tonight. All right, seeing none, we will look to close the public hearing then and look for a motion, a resolution approving and adopting the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of costs for the 2025 sanitary sewer rehabilitation project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move to item number 10, old business. Pass ordinance number 3092, providing that general property taxes levied and collected each year on all property located within the Hidden Pines urban renewal area in the city of Cedar Falls, County of Blackhawk County, State of Iowa, by and for the benefit of State of Iowa, City of Cedar Falls, County of Blackhawk County, Cedar Falls Community School District, and other taxing districts be paid to a special fund for payment of principal and interest on loans, monies advanced to an indebtedness, including bonds issued to or to be issued and incurred by the city in connection with the Hidden Pines urban renewal area upon its second consideration. We have motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to the consent calendar. So the following items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Are there any requests for items to be considered from council? None, any from the public? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve items 11 through 13 of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
And all opposed? That motion carries. Move to the resolution calendar. So the following items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests that an item be considered separately. Or any requests from council?
28.
Which one?
28.
All right, got that. Any other from council? And any from the public? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve items 14 through 29, excluding item number 28 of the resolution calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded and requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll go to item number 28. Have a resolution receiving and filing and setting February 3rd, 2025 as the date of the public hearing. Excuse me. on the proposed plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2025 alley reconstruction project. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and Counselor?
Just a quick question. The citizens that are neighboring these alleys, they've been notified already, or that's coming after this vote right now, so they can prepare and have questions of where the lines will be and so on?
Yes, there's already been a public meeting, and they'll be notified prior to construction as well.
Okay, so they can give input as far as how close to a garage or whatever. Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
Am I in the wrong one? Oh. It's getting slow on me.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Like too many words.
Don't blame me.
Clicks.
There we go. I'm clicking.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to ordinances. Item number 30, pass an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2774, designating the College Hill Urban Revitalization Area in the city of Cedar Falls, Iowa upon its first consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, and any discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
If I may, I just wanted to double check if this impacts any of the existing, so I don't know who I'm asking, but if it impacts any of the existing reimbursements down there, or if it affects any timing on the previous or the next public hearing.
Shane, if you don't mind.
So this is the current College Hill Urban Revitalization Area, which isn't to be confused with the College Hill Urban Renewal Area. This doesn't affect, I think I've mentioned this before, I think we've had, since this has been adopted in 2012, I think we've had 7 applications come forward. This does not affect any of the existing applications if they're still receiving their 5-year tax abatement on their project. Repealing this won't have any effect on those at all.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Shane. Any other discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Also seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to item 31. Do we have a motion to allow bills and claims for January 21st, 2025?
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from council? None. Any from the public? All seeing none, requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any council updates and/or announcements? All right, seeing none. Any council referrals? None submitted, so any pressing? Also seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you, everyone.